together.
Yeah, but music is bigger than just chords and notes.
That's true.
And things that we just hear. It's something intangible.
Mm-hmm.
When I listen to like what was the song Red, Black, and Green,
right, Red, Black,
which is one of my favorites of yours.
Right.
When I hear that song, I immediately have thoughts of Africa,
right.
and it takes me back to the motherland. And I want to kind of transition my next question to that side of the world, because you work with one of the greatest. And if you guys don't know about him, I'm sure you all do. But when we talk about folk like James Brown and Billie Holiday and Roy Ayers, you got to mention a guy out of Nigeria by the name of Fela.
Fela Kuti, yeah.
And Fela Kuti, if you don't know, there is actually a Broadway play, and the young man who stars in the play right now is from Atlanta, Sar.
Right.
And the play has actually been executive produced by Will Smith, Jada Pinkett Smith, Bill T. Jones.
Right.
It's huge. They were nominated for about 5 or 6 Tonys.
Right.
And I always said when I read his autobiography, I always said this story is a really profound story. And what's more profound with you is that you actually spent time with the man in Nigeria at his club, The Shrine. Just give us a brief story about that, because that has to be so intriguing, man, just to be on that side of the globe.
I had an attorney who was doing business in Nigeria. That my attorney was a New Yorker, and a black New Yorker. He was doing business in Nigeria as well as other areas. And he said to me one day, Roy, there's a musician that you should record something with and do something with maybe. And I said, well, who's that? He said, Fela Kuti. I said, who's that? I had never heard of him. I had heard his music, but I had really never heard of him on any consistent level. And I said, well, I'd like to meet him. So myself, my attorney, and my congero, my conga player, we went over to Nigeria in the summer of 1979. And when I got off the plane, Fela met me there with his entourage. Maybe it was about 35, 40 people at the airport. And when he saw me, he looked at me and he said, "You are Yoruba," which is a tribe. And I said, "I am?" And he said, "Yes, we hugged and we got off very well. It was a perfect relationship." And I thought about it because I'm just going somewhere else now. That the relationship that we should have with Africa should be one of respect. And with Africans, that's what I'm saying about Africa. With Africans, the black people over there. But it seems as though we've been separated through the cleverness of certain people in the system that decided that we should not work together. And I started thinking, I talked to Fela about, we talked about international exchange. Whereas black people could do business with black people. It's something that has very seldom happened, in business relations, even on a small level. And we talked about it. Talked about having our own record companies, but of course, he had his record company at the time, and at that time, the record companies were, everybody that was with the record company was with the major record companies, or with the record companies that was owned by somebody else, usually a major company. And it wasn't we had, nobody was even thinking about having their own record company, because record companies were all monopolized by the industry, by the people that are here. At any rate, what I'm saying, that was the beginning of me talking to someone, and which was Fela, about international exchange in whatever products, And I think the gentleman from here was Andrew Young. Andrew Young was doing it with big corporations, or at least with the black corporations here. He did it for a while, but it's so minimally done. It's not even done on any major level. Nobody does it. It really bothers me all the time, because that's something that we should have been doing. I mean, black organizations and black business people in Africa and black business people and organizations in America should be doing it and having international exchange and importing and exporting. It should have been done. And it should be done even if it's on a small level. You understand? That can create jobs, that can create money, that can create relationships. These are things that we have not been able to do because for some reason or the other, it's been set up that way. You know, whereas we don't get together and talk and communicate with each other. It just seems like it stays that way. Yeah. So I'm really interested in doing that. Hopefully something can happen. Well,